Hello, I'm Laura Whaley, Agency Consultant here at Kite Technology Group. Today I'm bringing to you our latest in our Consulting Corner series on custom forms. So what do I mean by custom forms? Well, many of our agencies write our standard Accord coverages like general liability, automobile, homeowners. Those types of coverages have an Accord form that fit those coverages very well. You're able to record all the details of the policy right there in Epic on that application. So what happens when you write those non-standard coverages like cyber liability or directors and officers? Well, we need to create a custom form for those. Those coverages do not fit well on a general liability application. So today, I'm going to show you where to navigate in Epic to create those custom forms and the basics of creating those custom forms. So let's jump into Epic. All right, so here we are in Epic, and the first thing that we want to do is click on Configure in your navigation pane. Under Configure, you're going to locate Policies, and then within that menu, you're going to scroll down to Custom Forms. In this area is going to be all of the custom forms that you have currently installed in Epic. These can include applications that were given to you in your database when you migrated to Epic. It could also include any current custom forms that may be active in your system. So a few things to see here on this screen. These are all of the custom forms. There's an indication on whether they are installed or not, and we'll talk about what that means, if they are active or inactive, and then if they're set as a default application. Over here to the right, you'll be able to see the name of that application, if it includes common screens like additional coverages, additional interest, forms and endorsements, and/or remarks. And then you'll be able to see the custom screens that are in that application, and you're able to tell if they are scheduled screens or not. So we're going to go into create a custom form. You're going to hit the add button here. You're going to name your application. I'm going to create another cyber liability application. Here you can decide if you want to include some of these common screens, so additional coverages, additional interest, forms and endorsements, and remarks. So I often use forms and endorsements and/or remarks. Depending on the type of coverage, you could also need additional interest to record any additional insureds or lost payees on an application. You would want to turn those on. And then obviously you have additional coverages if you want to schedule additional coverages. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those all on so we can see what that looks like. But here on this menu here is our custom screens, and you're going to want to hit add to add that first custom screen. So quite often my first screen will be my limits and my deductibles. What's really important is that you first take the time to figure out what you want your screens to look like, what information you want to be on your screen. So for something like limits and deductibles, you can certainly create a screen where you have fields that need to be filled in. You can also create a scheduled screen, and what the scheduled screen looks like is that it has a table at the top, and you add to that table. So you can add as many rows to that table as you want. So that is super helpful if you're going to have a long list of coverages, or for example, things like vehicle schedules or driver schedules or locations. You're going to want those to be custom forms with a scheduled screen. So here is what a scheduled screen looks like when you open it. As you can see, we have our table at the top, and now we have to decide what we want in that table. So for cyber liability, we can have all kinds of different coverages with different names. So I'm just going to simply put in on this one, our label is going to be coverage name. All right, then we need our text box. So our text box goes here. And what does that text box get? So over here you have prompt text. What do you want your user to see? We can say enter coverage name. Here you can decide, is it text, currency, date, etc. So this dictates what kind of characters can be added to these fields and how long can they be. So for this one, I'm just going to use alphanumeric or text. I'm going to leave it as text because I want them to be able to type in whatever that coverage name is. And I'm going to make this a longer field. I want them to be able to add up to 200 characters. Multi-line you may use if you're using something like a remarks field. You may want to be able to give them maybe 2,000 characters and you want it to be a big text box over here. So that's where that multi-line comes into play. So I'm going to hit false here. I'm going to leave this as just a 200 character coverage name line, and that is your first item. So I'm going to continue. I'm just going to add another label here, and I'm going to create limit. I will bring in a text box for my limit. And so I'm going to say enter limit here. And under my data type, I want this to be currency. Now, our limits of insurance don't have decimals, so I'm going to use 0 decimals, but I do want to be able to do a currency. Here you would decide how long you want that limit to be. So if we're thinking standard coverages are usually $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, could be upwards of 10 or 20 million. So to give ourselves enough length here, I'm just going to leave this at 20. And then I'm going to click off. So as you can see over here, we're getting our fields entered. We have our label, and then we have our field for entering the text. So I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to do a deductible here. And I'll bring in that text box, and I will say enter deductible. Again, I want this to be currency with no decimals. And then I'll click off. So that is the basics of adding a schedule screen. For your schedule screen, the next step that we need to do is decide which of these fields will come into our table at the top. I want to be able to see all of these as a column here in our table. So while I'm on my name, I want to decide what in that table will the heading be for that column. I'm just going to name this as coverage. I don't want to say coverage name. I just want to say coverage, and that's going to be column number 1. Then I'm going to come down to my limit, and I will type a limit, and that is column number 2. And then I will do the same thing with your deductible, and that is going to be named deductible. I can abbreviate if I want to deductible. This is just internal, and I can leave that as column 3. So if I was done, I could hit save here and go ahead and exit out of my application. That is simply all I need for a scheduled screen. So if I wanted to add an additional screen, I can come up to File, and I can do New, and I can create another screen here in my application. So for example, if I want underwriting information, I can say is this scheduled or no, and we'll say no this time and look at what that looks like. So this one again is a scheduled screen. It has the table here at the top. This one is a non-scheduled screen, and so this is literally just a blank screen for us. It's a blank canvas. We can make this look like whatever we want it to look like. So over here, again, you have your same controls. We have our label and our text box. We'll take a look at what some of these other ones are. There is a combo box. The combo box is that drop-down feature. And there are some libraries already entered in Epic that you can use. So you could use a standard table and find the table that you want to use. So there's things like address type, for example, and it already has those built-in drop-downs. However, if you're looking for a table that's custom, you can create a new table, and this is where you would create that new drop-down box, okay? That is the combo box. We also have over here a group box. So what does a group box look like? Well, quite simply, a group box is a way to group like things so that visually you have things all together. So up here, group box might be something like the insured information. And then you would have your labels and your text fields for the insured. Okay, name, address, etc. Then you could drop down here and create a group box and call this coverages. And so it's a way for us to visually break up those sections of the screen. I will point out that when you add a group box, then anything that's in that group box you can move together. If it is outside of a group box, if I have these fields outside of here, okay, I have to individually drag these, or you can highlight all of those and drag them together. Once they are in that group box though, they become a part of that box and you can move them with that box. So once you have your application built, you have all of your pages on your application, you're going to go ahead and hit save and exit out of the application. And one more exit to get out to our main screen here. All right, so you'll see here back over on the side, there's a couple of things to note. Our application by default is not installed. First thing you have to do is install that application. The act of installing the application makes it available to assign to a policy type. So before we do that, we want to make sure this application is ready to be used. Okay, so once you've made all of your custom screens, you'll use actions and install custom form. That's going to switch this from a no to a yes. Until your application shows that it is installed, it's not going to be available in your coverage types to associate to a coverage type. The final step would be to associate it to your policy type. Once you've navigated to your policy types, you'll locate the policy in the list, and then you'll hit edit, and that gives you the ability to associate to the application. So the commercial liability, I have all of my custom form types, and then I have my general Accord type commercial lines applications that are also available for that line coverage. So you would simply associate it to that new custom form that you've created, and then you're going to hit finish. A couple of things to remember here is that once you make this association, all policies going forward will have that application. So new policies and then policies being renewed will have that application. Existing policies in Epic will not have that application until they are renewed. All right, so hopefully you found some inspiration now. You're ready to get into Epic and start creating those custom forms. However, if you do need help from us here at Kite Technology Group, we are here to help. So reach out via our website. Also on our website, you'll find all of our prior webinars that we've hosted, as well as our prior Consulting Corner videos, which may have some gems hidden in there for you as well. Thank you for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you and talking soon.